deconstructionism.
Oh,
yeah. We've
and you know what? It's a fad. It's like a hula hoop. It's a fad right now.
I know.
And I think the best thing the church can do is, you know what, batten down the hatches, get that keel set straight, and weather the storm. Because when it comes out on the other side, it's going to be, everybody's going to look at it like it was a fad.
Oh,
yeah.
there's more than that the church can do, because what it comes down to actually preparing each other to be able to defend your faith.
Yep.
Yes.
Because so many people are worried about saving souls and moving on, and that's how souls get led astray, because there's so many of them out there that have no clue why so many things that they believe are true and know how to back up their claims.
Right.
When it comes to deconstructionism, a good thing to employ is Pascal's wager. Yeah. Just do the things of the faith consistently and see what happens.
Yeah.
Because, I thought about that when I looked at it this week. I thought, this is an answer to deconstructionism. If you're not sure of what you believe, then do the things that are the basis of belief, prayer and fellowship and all of those other great things of the faith, and you will come to understand something that maybe you're struggling with right now.
Well, you know what? I've watched more than a few deconstructions on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
And I have not been impressed with a single one. Almost every single deconstruction has been for shallow, self-seeking reasons. Whether it was peer pressure and the ability now to just go along with the culture, or I want to do X, Bible says Y, so I'm just going to chop off the Bible and do X.
Yeah, but also from time to time, it is due to something that reasonably sounds true.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the problem is, while they're being critical of the Christian faith and ideology as far as following God and Jesus, they are not critical of the arguments and don't fully consider them.
Right.
It sounds good, and they run with it.
Well, essentially, that's what atheism is. When a skeptic is skeptical, and most of the time it is about Christianity and Christ, they are never skeptical about their own worldview. And so they tell you, well, atheism isn't a worldview. It's just a non-belief in God. Well, no, it is a worldview. You're saying something about the condition of the cosmos. You're saying that whatever the cosmos is, whatever reality it is, God or gods had no part in it. There is no supernatural. That means you are committed to following physics and the laws of chemistry from top to bottom. All right?
But at the beginning,
so now you need to explain things like, you've got to explain things like the origin of the universe. All right?
The laws don't
you have to have life from inanimate, chemical processes. You have to have mind from inanimate chemical processes. You have to have morals. Where do you ground your morals? Where do you ground your values? Where do you ground your reasoning? The very fact that you're thinking is a problem for you, because under atheism, you simply don't have that freedom. All right.
Well,
it's just chemicals, pal. Okay.
Well, but still, in order to make that argument, they have to redefine what was traditionally atheism to what they say that it is now.
Yep.
True atheism is a genuine
that God
belief.
Does not exist.
It's exactly. It's a belief that he does not exist. It's not just simply not believing in him. Not believing in God is full-blown Gnosticism or agnosticism.
Right. Agnosticism, yeah. But that doesn't have the weight, the gravitas of calling yourself an atheist. That sounds more edgy and more scientific. And again, it's because the only way you can hold that type of belief is if you assume this whole background of information to get you to the point where you want, which is what they call a taxi cab fallacy. All right, you ride the taxi to the point where you want to get off, and you just get off there arbitrarily.
Yeah, you have to either assume
follow that reasoning anymore.
Yeah, you either have to believe all them things on an assumption, or you have to actually know everything.
Yeah,
and nobody knows everything.
That's true.
And again, the deconstruction movement I've seen is just it's heart-wrenching, but it's pathetic. And I think, let me see if I can, because I just ordered the book. Evan Sayet just wrote this book that says Magic Soup, Typing Monkeys, and Horny Aliens from Outer Space. The patently absurd, wholly unsubstantiated, and extravagantly failed atheist origin myth. All right? And since he was a comedian and everything, this is his way of saying, you know what, it needs ridicule. That whole point of view needs ridicule. Don't engage it like it's serious, because really, when you take a look at it, it's not serious.
That aliens came and messed with our DNA.
Yeah, it's that aliens came and seeded the earth.
He's not arguing that as a point. Yeah. He's stating that that's the atheist idea, which some of them believe it's possible. However,
well, that goes back to typing monkeys. If you have an infinite number of monkeys, and counting away on an infinite number of typewriters,
then supposedly you'll eventually come with an actual work of art,
Shakespeare,
from literacy. Shakespeare, Mark Twain, whatever. Now, Bob Newhart has a pretty decent little comedy skit that addresses that idea.
These myths just keep getting pushed back further and further, and thinner on science. That the typing monkeys have been replaced by the multiverse, of which scientists agree, physicists agree, that there can be absolutely zero proof of. That even if the multiverse is true, we could never, ever, ever even scientifically confirm such a thing.
I'll take it one step further with you there, Patrick. Because the whole idea of a multiverse is that, be it butterfly effect or whatever, whatever possibilities there are from a certain decision, supposedly in theory, every different decision branches off into its own different multiverse.
Right.
Which means if you go backwards, you still have to have an original point of beginning everything.
Well, the multiverse, strictly spoken by physicists, is there's a lot of weird theories like string and quantum foam and everything else, but essentially there's something that generates universe bubbles, and within that bubbles there's different physics for each bubble. Now, since there's an infinite number of them, somewhere out there are bubbles that actually allow for the formation of atoms and matter and energy, and just like ours. We're basically the recipients of a lucky, super lotto. And that's what they hinge it on. But scientists say, well, the problem is that if each bubble is separate from another and never comes in contact with another, you can't, by the use of physical science, which is defined by physics in this bubble, discover what is in another bubble if another bubble even exists. That's possible.
That right there is where science would completely fall apart.
Oh, that's just fantasy at that point. And it's just a fantasy that says, it's a way for me to explain what is mighty uncomfortable for me.
With that idea, science can't hold up. The whole reason that science actually does hold up is because that the people that originally was come up with the concepts of performing science and studies to begin with believed that everything was together and worked in concert and made sense because they believed that there was a design to it to begin with.
Right.
Yep, it's just I'm both very, very, very hopeful over the church right now and pressed at the same time. I think as we see people deconstruct, and let's face it, it's questionable on whether those people who deconstruct were faithful souls to begin with, really didn't understand their Christianity or their beliefs, and therefore deconstructed. What's going to remain is a much more pure and healthy form of Christianity. At least I'm hoping.
Well, before we leave out, Patrick, I do remember that we discussed the multi-God objection and the non-chosen belief objection. Was there any other objections that you remember running into contact with on the Pascal's wager?
The other was the multiple denominations objection, which really is only offered by people who have no idea of the Christian church, and that how, out of these tens of thousands of denominations, 95% of them would rally around the exact same beliefs if push came to shove.
Yeah.
Whereas, the Joel Osteens and the Kenneth Copelands and, those out there, they're basically on their own. But the rest of Christianity is pretty rock solid in that. And we divide on stupid things that because we're stupid, fallen people. But when push comes to shove, we're all going to come back together pretty good and say, these are the core tenets.
Well, you would hope so, but I mean, sometimes I have my doubts whenever I see what people consider are worth arguing over to the death in social media circles.
Oh, I know. Well, social media is
a circus.
Yeah.
Where the goal is not necessarily to entertain. I'm sorry, Jerry.
You guys ever read Have you guys ever read anything?
I saw a comic the other day where Mouse is talking about how depressed he is and saying, look, I get a good night's sleep. I get up. I have my coffee. I have my breakfast. I walk out in the world. And then it shows a picture of like internet. And there's all these people with torches and pitchforks and these monster faces and angry and that. And it's like, he's like, is that where I go wrong every morning? And somebody said, yeah, it's called the internet. And it's basically the more time you spend on internet, the less hope that I think you see. But
yeah. What book was you talking about, Jerry?
It's a poem, The Gods of the Copybook Headings by Rudyard Kipling. Can I read it to you?
Sure.
As I pass through my incarnations of every age and race, I make my proper prostrations to the gods of the marketplace. Peering through reverent fingers, I watch them flourish and fall, and the gods of the copybook headings, I notice, outlast them all. We were living in trees when they met us. They showed us in each turn that water would certainly wet us and fire would certainly burn. But we found them lacking in uplift, vision, and breadth of mind. So we left them to teach the gorillas while we followed the march of mankind. We moved as the spirit listed. They never altered their pace, being neither cloud nor wind born like the gods of the marketplace, but they always caught up with our progress, and presently word would come that a tribe had been wiped off its ice field or the lights had gone out in Rome. When the hopes that our world is built on, they were utterly out of touch. They denied that the moon was Stilton. They denied she was even Dutch. They denied the wishes were horses, and they denied the pig had wings. So we worship the gods of the market who promised these beautiful things. When the Cambrian measures were forming, they promised perpetual peace. They swore if we gave them our weapons that the wars of the tribes would cease. But when we disarmed, they sold us and delivered us bound to our foe. And the gods of the copybook heading said, stick it to the devil, you know. And the first feminine sandstones, we were promised the fuller life, which started by loving our neighbor and ended by loving his wife, till our women had no more children and men lost reason and faith. And the gods of the copybook headings said, the wages of sin is death. In the carnivorous epic, we promised abundance for all by robbing selected Peter to pay collective Paul. But though we had plenty of money, there was nothing our money could buy. And the gods of the copybook headings said, if you don't work, you die. then the gods of the market tumbled, and their smooth-tongued wisdom